Hello and welcome. I'm not in my usual location today, and it looks like I have kind of odd lighting here where I'm filming today, but I wanted to go ahead and get a quick chat done on the Mussorgsky Riddle by Darin, which is the most recent book that I finished, and following this chat, I'll also touch base briefly on what I'm currently reading. But yeah, the Mussorgsky Riddle by Darin, originally published in 2015. This book came onto my reading radar about a little over a year ago, I think. I saw an interview with this author on Buzzy Multimedia, I think it's called, a YouTube channel. And I'll put a link to that interview with the author down in the details below in case anybody's interested in seeing that. But the book just sounded, really super interesting to me at that time. So I sort of put it on my want-to-read list. And then when I was building my priority reading list for 2018, I built that list around certain themes, and one of the themes I had for reading this year was music and art, and so I chose this book because of the Mussorgsky Riddle. The Mussorgsky in the Mussorgsky Riddle refers to Modest Mussorgsky, the classical music composer, and this book concerns a young boy whose mind has been fragmented into the various movements of the Pictures at an Exhibition Suite by Modest Mussorgsky. So it had that classical music tie-in, and so I decided to add it to my priority reading list under this theme of music and art, and I thought it was also interesting that it was a paranormal fantasy book. So it's a fantasy with this classical music tie-in, and so I decided to add it for that reason. And it turned out to be very entertaining, and I'm so glad that I did get it read. So what it's about is there's this young boy, kind of tweenish, like 13, 14 years old, I think, and he has stopped speaking, and he's under the care of a therapist of some kind, a psychologist, psychiatrist, Dr. Archer, because he already has some kind of autism-ish kinds of being, and so he had already been, I think, under the care of maybe this sort of therapist, but anyway, he had worsened and actually stopped speaking, stopped interacting with his environment at all, and the doctor and the therapist, they really weren't able to help him, and so in desperation, the boy's mother reaches out to a psychic that had hit the national news, the year previously from Virginia. This story takes place in Charlotte, North Carolina. This psychic from Virginia had solved a missing girl case, missing persons case, the year previously, and so the mother had heard of her, and so enlist her services to come and try to see if she can help her son. This boy's name is Anthony. So our main characters, we have Anthony the boy, we have Dr. Archer, who is his therapist / doctor, then we have his mother, he has an older brother, Jason, and a younger sister, Rachel, and those are the sort of the main characters in the real world, along with the psychic, Mira. So Mira, she, like I said, has been called in because she has solved missing person cases before, and so she has this ability to go into the boy's mind, and so when she does this, at first it takes her a while to sort of understand, but the boy's mind has been fragmented into the various movements of the Pictures at an Exhibition Suite by Modest Mussorgsky, as I mentioned, and so in the boy's mind, then the pictures in the exhibition each have there's a long hallway, and there's alcoves off each of these off this hallway that have paintings in them, at an exhibition, and there are characters in the paintings, like a gnome, a troubadour, a witch, and others, and so the paintings and the characters within the paintings represent different aspects of this young boy Anthony's mind. And so when the psychic goes into the boy's mind, she is the character Scheherazade from the Rimsky-Korsakov classical music piece. So there's another classical music tie-in actually there. So Scheherazade, is there. That is Mira, the psychic, and then different characters within the paintings, in the exhibition, in the boy's mind, all have certain, sort of almost superpowers that they have associated with them, which were aspects of strengths of the boy's mind, right? But Mira, the psychic, when she goes in, she's Scheherazade. Her sort of superpower is storytelling, because that's the story of the 1001 Nights, the tales, Arabian Nights tales. So, there's that other classical music tie-in, which I thought was really cool. Now, there's also another mystery. So we have this mystery about what's going on with this boy's mind. We do have another mystery that sort of interplays with the story, and that is a young high school girl, sort of popular, the kind of the most popular girl in school, whatever. She goes missing too, and so there's a tie-in with this story. So we actually have two different mysteries going on in this paranormal fantasy book, which it was a such a fun ride really to go on. Couple of thoughts about it. The movements of the suite, the different movements like nomos and, they pertain to the pictures. So it was real interesting. It was real fun for me while I was reading this book to actually listen to the pictures at an exhibition. And I'll put links down to the versions I listened to below. I actually found the versions, the recordings that are referred to in the book and listened to those. And so that was real cool, and the Scheherazade too. I don't think I listened to the Scheherazade. I don't know that it was referenced to. I think it did actually reference a specific recording, but I'm not sure I listened to the actual recording that's referenced in the book. But nevertheless, if you're not familiar with those classical music works of classical music, then there'll be links to those on the Spotify links that I listened to below. But you can also find those on YouTube if you wanted to, if you're not familiar with them, because they're really beautiful pieces of music. And the author mentioned on the interview, that he had always loved the pictures at an exhibition, and he got inspired to write the novel because he had listened to the pictures at an exhibition multiple times, and he happened to flip it over one time and noticed the different movements and thought, this is actually the chapters of a book. And so that's sort of how he explained that the book the book was born. So I thought that was really cool. And, I don't want to give away anything else really about the story because it is a mystery, and part of the fun of it, or a lot of the fun of it, was actually going on this sort of journey in the boy's mind, as well as the things that are going on in the outside world, that, the different characters' interactions and the conflicts. There's several other conflicts going on and storylines. So, but I don't want to give that away because that was a lot of the fun of reading it. I did find out, I'm going to pull it up here, that since that this book is actually, there's been another book written in this same, it's now a series. There's actually 3 of them, and I was just going to pull them up because I pulled up their covers. I love this cover. This is the second one, the Stravinsky Intrigue. Isn't that a cool cover? I think that's such a cool cover. So yeah, Stravinsky. So it's going to be another classical music tie-in. I think this continues the story of Mira and this Faircloth family, I think, but I haven't read too much on it. And then the third one, which I believe just came out like a month ago, is called the Tchaikovsky Finale. It's another great cover. So another classical music sort of tie-in. I think it's real kind of, a lot of fun, this kind of classical music tie-ins with a fantasy, paranormal fantasy in this paranormal fantasy genre. So I will definitely get around to reading at least the Stravinsky Intrigue next. Not sure when I'll get to that, but I do hope to eventually address that because I do like to break up my reading sometimes with fantasy and other kinds of genres. So yeah, that'll be coming up at some point in the future. So what I'm currently reading, let me just see if I can find the cover for that real quick. Talk about that for a bit. I decided to do one of my first interruption reads, so if you've heard my channel, I usually read off of a priority reading list as the new year starts, my 2018 list, but I do allow myself 5 interruption reads throughout that priority reading process, and For my next read, I decided to pick up Des In by Cixin Liu. This is the third in a trilogy called the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. Sometimes it's called the Three-Body Problem trilogy by Cixin Liu. This is Chinese science fiction, and I read the previous two of this trilogy already, and I really wanted to get to the third one last year during my free reading period, and I just ran out of time. And so I decided, rather than wait till I finish out my priority list, I would just interrupt my priority reading for 2018 and go ahead and get the third one of this trilogy read, so I can finish out the story, because it's a fun story. It's a story. It starts in the Cultural Revolution in China, and there is a contact with an alien civilization, and then we have an invasion ensues that, of course, takes hundreds of years because of the distance. But and so the third one promises to be every bit as fun as the first two were. The Three-Body Problem, the first book in this trilogy, won, I believe, the Hugo Award, and it was the first work in translation to win a Hugo, my understanding is. So that's pretty cool. I have been doing a drawing to let the randomness of the universe choose the reading order for my priority list, but since I'm not in my usual location, I don't have access to my little bowl with all my pieces of paper that have all my books on it. So I'm going to wait until I get back to my normal location to do my drawing to see what my next read is going to be. But when I check in to do the chat for Des End, I will let you know what I'm currently reading, as well as do the drawing then for the reading after that. So until then, stay tuned. Take care. Bye.